Director Meggs? Director Silla? Director Kelly?
Here.
Director Gaffney?
Here.
Director Borstein?
Also here.
Thank you.
And if you'll join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much. I'm now going to adjourn to closed session. Good evening. I'm reconvening the Ross Valley Sanitary District Board meeting of July 16th. I'm reporting that we have nothing to report out from closed session. So I would move to see if I have an approval of the agenda, or do we want to move anything around? Steve, do we have anybody attending that we want to accommodate?
I don't believe so. There is one item that we're going to continue. It's the item 12. We're going to continue that item. And not
He's
hear that
on, maybe.
tonight.
So number 12,
I'm
we
sorry,
want
we're
to
going to
continue?
So we're going to recommend continuation, Mike.
Okay.
My bad.
So do I have a motion to approve the agenda? And we'll get the
I move the agenda with item 12.
right, with the idea of
If he's here,
continuing item 12.
Second?
All in favor?
aye.
Aye. Okay, motion passes. Thank you very much. We're going to have a committee and representative report out. So number one, Finance Committee, Tom?
Public comment.
Oh,
Do we have any public comment? Do we have any public on? We do. Okay. Now's the time for public comment on items not on the agenda. People will be able to speak on items on the agenda as they come up. Anyone wishing to address the Board of Directors on matters within the district's jurisdiction, but not on the post agenda may do so. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. The board may not take action or discuss items not on the agenda, but may briefly respond to statements or questions by a member of the public. The board president may refer any matter to staff for further follow-up or elect to have a matter placed on an agenda, a future agenda item. Do we have any public that would like to comment at this time? Okay, seeing none.
We don't.
Now I'll move on to the committee and representative report out. And number one is Finance Committee. Tom?
Okay, Finance Committee met yesterday. We reviewed the financial reports. We're in good financial condition. All of our reserve targets are total about 19.4 million, and we have about 19.1 million in our reserves. So we brought that up. Let's see. The other thing we did was we reviewed a continuation of IT Hub, our technology consultants, and their continuation a little bit less than last year at cost. So that was good news.
Which Christina caught.
Yeah.
Credit where credit due.
And we had a pretty good discussion on the continuation of services for Century Urban, an additional $178,000, and went over that. Now, looks like the sale could take place within about a year. And so this takes us to the end. We requested staff to put the previous amounts that we've spent for them in the documents that we receive going forward. We discussed briefly continuing work with Glossage. We've identified some sewers that are in bad shape right next to the project. So very cost-effective way to approach those. And we had a long discussion on CMSA's flawed billing method, which we'll discuss, I think, later in the agenda. And that's it.
Yeah, basically, we went over the entire agenda of tonight, except a couple of items.
that's the joy of finance.
It was a good meeting. It was a very good meeting, very productive. All right, thank you, Tom. North Bay Watershed, Pam?
Yes. We met on July 11th, CMSA, about 29 various representatives there. We had a guest speaker, Dana Lee, a senior fish biologist, and he gave us research information on non-native fish that are attacking salmon, to the point up in the San Joaquin, there's only about 1% of native Chinook. It's very depressing information. I also talked about predator fish, and that's partly why they're almost becoming extinct. So it's striped bass, I used to go with my father for fishing, and that was one of the fish we caught. I think in black bass, maybe two. Our scholarship meeting will meet Monday for an hour and a half. This is the packet from all over these different counties of people who have applied for various grants or scholarships. Very exciting. And let's see if there's anything else I forgot. No, I think that's all good. Thank you.
Thank you. Central Marin Sanitation, Michael?
Yeah, sure. One more note for what? One more note. I had no idea that the bass in the bay were non-indigenous species. They were brought over from the East Coast in the 1800s for people to fish here, and they're killing the salmon. And so, one of the things they brought up is take all the limits off the striped bass.
Oh, really?
Tell all the fishermen, go out and go for it. Take as many as you possibly can. And then if there's something bad about that, it's all that bad stuff they've ingested. And the more salmon, the more bass will kill you then. So that's, anyway.
All right. Good to know.
CMSA. We went over the proposed budget. There was nothing extraordinary in there. As far as that end of the ship goes, it seems like Jason is running a pretty tight ship there and getting the projects done that they say they're going to do and doing it within the budget. So that end of it's going fine. They're replacing the bridge crane system, and there's a very long lead time on getting the bridge cranes. And so we approved for them to pre-purchase the bridge crane systems so that when we're ready to install them, we've got them on site with the expertise ready to go and put them in. Went over the business plan, and pretty much we line up on everything, that they said they were going to do, they've done, and the things that they want to put in. So that looked pretty straightforward. Canceling the August board meeting. And that was pretty much it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Pretty much, that was it.
Who's going to do CMSA ad hoc JPA? Okay, Tom?
The key thing that we did was we went over Brandon Halter's comments on in fact, his new contract. And the entire presentation followed Michael Colantuno's memo that he wrote for us, but it was addressed to me. And they were asking, well, how did you get there? I had a copy of Michael's memo in front of me, and he just went right down that and discussed items that needed more work. And he wouldn't, it's kind of, I made a couple of comments and on different items, and he said, okay, I'll take those under consideration. He didn't discuss things, in detail, but anyway, that's what happened. That was the entire meeting, except for Jason then does how much he spent so far, and it was up in the $80,000 to $90,000 on this ad hoc operation.
Okay. Thank you very much. Verbal reports from the general manager, Steve.
Yes, thank you, President Kelly and board members. I've got 4 items I'd like to touch base on here before we move on through the meeting. First, pleased to let you know that the generator project that was for this property, 1111 Anderson, was completed this past month. And I want to thank Paul Brummer for
What was completed here?
The backup generator.
Oh, okay. Yep. Okay.
It's the capstone of our overall remodeling project here and moving into this building is to have the backup power for our data management systems and et cetera, in terms of just not having to make adjustments when power goes out.
How long will that generator last if there was a blackout?
I'm pretty sure at least 2 days, but any more than that? Yeah. 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 Probably 3 days.
Okay.
And that's in line with a lot of our generators around, in terms of the fuel that's in the tank, then you refill the tank and go on for indefinitely.
But then you could fill the tank, right?
That's what you just said.
Just
Yeah.
like gas.
So,
Diesel.
Diesel though, but
Diesel,
I
yeah.
mean, just
yeah, diesel generator.
What is the
So-
kickover time on that? What is the kickover time from?
How many seconds?
Yeah. 8 seconds.
That works.
Yeah, we did a full scale test this past month, and it was seamless. I was working on a spreadsheet. I didn't even have to blink, bat an eye. It was great.
will the coffee
Light stayed
machine
on.
deprogram if the power goes?
That's why we have 2 coffee machines, Tom.
So this was a huge milestone, and about a year and a half after moving in, and so we did have, one extended blackout, and it challenged us a bit, and we were, increased the motivation to get this thing up and running. So we're fully operational,
Good.
permitted. Bay Area Air Quality has permitted it. Cities signed off. We're fully operational with backup power at this facility. So that's a great milestone. I wanted to let the board know on a project that's being managed by Friends of Corte Madera Creek in partnership with the Marin Flood Control District. They've awarded a contract to do construction. It's an area right by Pump Station 15, Kentfield. But it's mostly on the opposite bank from us. And it's a restoration of the wetlands, the tidal wetlands in that area, where right now there's a lot of concrete, especially on the College of Marin side. So the name of the project is the Lower College of Marin Corte Madera Creek Restoration Project. And it's due to begin serious construction, heavy equipment on September 1st, or maybe the 2nd, because September 1st is Labor Day. But there's a tight window to do that type of work because of sensitive species. So they're trying to get it done by October 15th. In order to do that, they've received permission to do construction between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. every day between September 2nd and October 15th, including Saturdays 8 to 5. So these narrow windows that California Fish and Wildlife Department imposed on this environmental project have made it so they really have to fit in a narrow window. So we'll be we won't be impacted really at all because they're not going to use the bike path for access. So our operations will not be impeded. They are going to reduce the turnaround area. There's a gravel area across the bike path from Pump Station 15 that is going to be narrowed by 2/3. And that's going to be excavated from the creek side. And so the heavy equipment's coming in from the College of Marin side and going down into the creek. And then the bank is going to be excavated from that direction. So we'll be able to do what we do. There's only one heavy construction item on our bank. We're on the left bank going downstream. And that's a major size eucalyptus tree that needs to be removed. And so that will be the only activity that really requires us to coordinate access. If at all, that will be the only item. So I think it's generally good news for us. It's a positive project. It's going to have really positive environmental benefits, great community benefits, and it doesn't really impact us.
Should we make a small donation to them?
Well, we have been, yeah, in some ways we do already because we offer water supply for their planting activities out there. And so we have
You've already made a major contribution.
I know.
Yeah.
But they're good people.
And then we also made, long ago, there was a fine that was paid through a supplemental environmental project that we funded their efforts to do habitat restoration.
I'm more of that.
And we're always a positive voice out there, even though it could potentially impact our operations, it doesn't. And we make that clear to everybody that we support the project. And we have heavy equipment available if they run into any emergency situation. Our hydrovac equipment may come in handy to help them out of a jam. And so we stand ready to support the project, especially with that tight time frame. So anyway, it's a good partnership with them. Well, we'll keep you updated on that. As a result of what we've learned, we've concluded we can continue now with the interpretive sign project, because this construction project won't have any impact. So Christina is going to get in touch with you about scheduling another meeting to keep making progress on that. Good deal. All right, that's two things. So a couple of thought items, I guess I'll say. I just wanted to make some comments for your, consideration about recent news. You may have read that the city of Sausalito's sewer system is going to be annexed to the Sausalito Marin City Sanitary District. And this successful consolidation was years in the making, and it was much needed to improve the management of the system to industry standards. I speak from personal experience. In 2011, I was a design engineer and a construction manager for a project for Sausalito Marin City Sanitary District. And the level of knowledge and understanding of the Sausalito city sewer system was unsatisfactory. There were several oversights that ended up increasing project costs and created delay because of their lack of knowledge or understanding of their system. And that was in 2011. Things probably have gotten better since then. But at that time, as a resident of Sausalito, I lobbied for this consolidation, that it was just really in the best interests of the citizens that live there. And so it is great to see it finally happen. Now, if you were to draw parallels to that system, to the central Marin system, I just want to make a couple comments. Ross Valley Sanitary District would be the analog to Sausalito Marin City Sanitary District, because we're an independent special district, the independently elected officials, and we have fee authority. And the San Rafael and Corte Madera JPA members would be analogs to the city of Sausalito, where they are sewer departments within a municipality. CMSA is a JPA with no fee authority, so they are not as directly analogous to Sausalito Marin City Sanitary District as Ross Valley Sanitary District is. Finally, a key ingredient to the success of the Sausalito Marin City Sanitary District annexation of the city of Sausalito sewer system was that it was the result of a collaborative process that was fully supported by all affected parties.
Can't be successful without that.
You know what else is a major difference is that the city of Sausalito is not making any input anymore into the operation of the sewer system, and San Rafael San is. That's a major difference.
Yeah, thank you. All right. And so my last report out today is in relation to BACWA, the Bay Area Clean Water Agencies. You're aware through my reports, RVSD staff participate actively with BACWA. You might remember we hosted the general manager meeting in January here in this room. And I participated on a technical panel on climate resilience that was well received here in the annual meeting in May. And so I wanted to let you know that items we're tracking on with BACWA, and one of their priority issues these days, they released a scoping plan for regional planning study for reducing inorganic nitrogen loading to the bay in compliance with the regional nutrient discharge permit. And our JPA, CMSA, has a steep load reduction requirement. Part of the potential strategy, besides optimizing the existing treatment processes there at CMSA would be to participate in a nutrient trading program with other treatment plants. So Bakwa is contracted with the Freshwater Trust, which is a very reputable group that I had a lot of interaction with when I was on the State Water Board, and they would mediate these trading strategies in different watersheds in California and Oregon. And so they are under contract to Bakwa to scope out a nutrient trading strategy with the different treatment plants, and they'll be meeting with CMSA soon. And so, you know, as a stakeholder, RVSD will fund any CMSA treatment improvements or any of their participation in such a nutrient trading program. And so I requested on our behalf to be included in these meetings. CMSA has not responded to this request.
Okay.
And that's it for my report. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Is that a public meeting?
No, it's a meeting between Bakwa's consultant, Freshwater Trust, and all of the treatment plants around the Bay Area.
Thank you. Verbal reports by board members and requests for future items. Pam? Mary, no? Nope. Nope. Tom?
No.
Okay, and I do not. Okay, thank you very much. Now to the consent calendar. Matters listed under this item are routine and will be acted by one motion. A consent calendar may include resolutions. Therefore, the motion, second, and vote will be applicable to the resolutions and recorded accordingly. Any open any public expression on the consent? No, not at this time. Okay. So do I have a motion, or does somebody want to pull anything?
I'll move the consent calendar.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the consent being passed. Thank you very much. Number 12, we will continue number 12 to the next meeting. Is that right, Steve? We'd like to have a motion for that?
Yes, yeah, I'd like to recommend, you may have received a notice of a special board meeting on Friday, July 25th.
Yes.
And I would recommend the board consider
Putting
continuing
that
this
to that?
item to that
Okay.
agenda, and we'll contact Century Urban and see if we can firm that up. But that sound good?
Okay,
That's our
that
recommendation.
sounds like a good idea. All right. Okay. So do I have a motion to continue number 12 to that date? Okay, second. Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. Okay. Number 13, considering approval of contract change number 1 for additional work on the fiscal year 24-25 gravity sewer improvement project, which is number 958, with Glossage Engineering in an amount not to exceed $137,890. Number 13, Steve.
Yes, very good.
And then
Thank
Phil?
you. Yes, thank you, President Kelly and board members. I think I will go ahead and just hand it over to Phil, who's joining us from a remote location to give an overview of the proposed change order. Phil?
All right, thanks, Steve. Yes, so this is the change order number 1 for the fiscal year 24-25 gravity sewer improvements project with Glossage Engineering. The project has been going along smoothly and rapidly. They're meeting all of the deadlines, as well as picking up extra items along the way. They've completed work in San Anselmo, which is where a lot of this where this change order work is located. During construction, we identified some of the lines that weren't previously slated for contract work off of easements off of Bennett Drive, Sir Francis Drake, as well as Suffield. These pipes that are in the change order are directly attached to manholes that were being rehabilitated. We like to make sure that when a new manhole is going in, that all of the pipes that are tributary to that manhole are addressed. It ensures that we get new water stops and that is new pipe coming into the manhole. So these were directly adjacent to the project area. And we discovered during construction that their condition, the contractor sends, TVs those lines and gives us a little condition assessment. One of the lines on Bennett Avenue, it was found that I didn't show any defects on our CMMS, our software info asset that tracks the condition of all these pipes in our CCTV, and turned out that the CCTV footage stopped about 10 feet into the pipe, and it wasn't showing any defects because we could not continue the survey because the pipe had such a bad offset, and then realized that we needed to rehabilitate that during construction, discovered many defects there, right near a hot tub and some other things on an easement there off of Bennett. And Glossage was, Glossage is the right contractor for that type of work. So all into people's backyards, but they have great experience with that type of work.
One thing, sorry to interrupt, but just for the board, this is board packet page 72 has the map if you don't have it in front of you already. Go ahead, Phil.
Sure. Yeah. So on that map on page 72, the total scope of the work, the total scope of this change order is it adds about 300 some odd feet of pipe, 11 additional laterals, as well as the manholes that are terminal to all of those pipes. So three new manholes there. That's the extent of the scope of work for the change order. These were all brought in at the contract bid prices for that diameter of pipe bursting, as well as the manhole replacements or rod. They were actually all rod holes that were converted to manholes. Those were all at the unit prices that were publicly bid. And yeah, that's all I have for that item.
Phil, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
How do we track how far a camera goes in? Doesn't the camera tell us its measurements? It's in 15, it's in 20, it's in 25?
Oh yeah, there's a footage counter as our cameras go in, whether it's a crawler or a push camera. If it's on a crawler, it's I think actually both of them read off of the reel that the cable comes off of, and that's typically how the footage is measured. We knew that the survey was incomplete, but I don't have, whenever I'm trying to find defective pipes or pipes with a lot of defects, we have to visualize that in a certain way. And usually that's by presenting all of the defects on a map, on a map that gives me the location of each one of those defects. And this pipe, looked squeaky clean at a glance, so I didn't investigate it further during design. And then, as I said, discovered, why was that? And it was because of one defect in particular that did not let us get our camera in there during that survey.
Okay, thank you. Questions?
Nope.
Okay.
I move we approve the change order for Glossage.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you very much. Number 14, consider of authorizing the general manager upon review and approval of council to execute a contract with Tyler Technologies for permit tracking software in an amount not to exceed $290,532.
Oh, good. For this item, I'd like to have Felicia introduce it and discuss it. She pulled together a great team internally to do a thorough evaluation of options. And this was on our business plan for at least the last couple of years. We recognized that our existing system, like others that we've talked about, was going to be phased out by the company that did the software. And so we needed to come up with a strategy to transition. And just want to thank Felicia for her efforts to lead that effort. But also, it was many staff were involved in the team, not so much me. So, Felicia.
Sure. I'd be happy to take this. Thank you. Thank you, President Kelly and members of the board. So as Steve mentioned, there were several staff members who put this item together, including Phil. Thank you for joining us back to answer any questions that might come up. The Finance Committee did review this item yesterday. The recommendation is for the board to award a contract to Tyler Technologies for a permit tracking software. And this was, as Steve mentioned, something that was in the planning for quite a bit of time. In fact, the finance officer reminded me after the Finance Committee meeting yesterday that we had actually included a technology fee in our permitting in our rate study and our fee study.
No, we talked about that.
Oh, we did talk about
we did
that.
talk
Okay,
about
good.
that.
And so he did a little research for us. We've collected about $40,000 over the past 5 years. And so we have effectively collected $200,000 approximately from our permitting customers for this software. And the reason I bring this up is because this is a demonstrated commitment on behalf of the district to have an improved system for our customers. And specifically, a forward-facing user interface that they can, as we talked about at the Finance Committee yesterday, apply for permits online, research certificates of compliance online, make payments for permits online, requests and get inspections scheduled online. So there really is a lot to this new software that we're looking forward to rolling out. Will take some time. And the other software vendors that we considered, as you'll see on, it's Board Packet 74. In addition to Tyler Technologies, were Central Square and OpenGov. Staff is recommending for its functionality, advanced features, user experience, GIS and cloud integration, and strong alignment with district needs, the Tyler solution, which while having a little higher upfront cost, will over the 3-year term be less expensive than Central Square. And it's noted that OpenGov while they did provide us a demo, didn't provide us any actual cost proposal. So they are not being considered. With that, I'd say staff would make a recommendation for a contract amount not to exceed $290,532, which is just a little higher than the estimated 3-year cost, to include a modest contingency for accommodation of a final scope decision or minor implementation changes.
Felicia, can you talk a little bit about what our current situation is? We're using 2 different software packages. One's a third party or second party to the first, and it's no longer being supported in the future. Is that correct?
Yes, that's exactly right. Currently, we've been relying on SharePoint, which many people know it's a Microsoft product. Very complex capabilities, but requires quite a bit of configuration. And in order to achieve that configuration, we rely on a second party product called Nintex. And Nintex will, at the end of this fiscal year, no longer be supporting that workflow configuration required to make SharePoint work for our permitting and inspection needs. So we are also at a really good time to launch this implementation.
Okay, thank you. Questions?
No, as somebody who wrote a $343 check to the district that Luis delivered, I believe, and filled out a paper form online that I printed out from online. I was like, really? This is how we do this? Yeah, so we should move out of that.
Okay.
Yeah,
agreed.
I should be able to pay it on. I won't have to do it for 20 years now, but I should be able to pay it online and fill out the form online, I imagine. And this would give us that capability for the.
Yes, and this has been like I said, in the planning since 2020. The district made a commitment to put some funds aside to modernize our system. I think, I'll mention just that little pandemic during that period of time, as well as moving into, the new building, put this on a back burner, but we're really pleased to be able to say that we're ready to.
And I
Go
mentioned to Felicia yesterday at the meeting that since I'm in the business, when we take credit cards online, we should add the 3% surcharge to cover the cost of the.
If we do credit cards. I had a comment that I thought this was very expensive. And then, so I asked, well, how many do we have to get each year? How many permits? And it's in the range of 300 to 400. I had no idea it was anywhere near that many. So it's a lot of paperwork that hopefully can be avoided. And then we'll have an annual cost like IT and others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mary, do you have a motion?
Sure. I'll move that we authorize the general manager upon review and approval of council to execute a contract with Tyler Technologies for permit tracking software in an amount not to exceed $290,532.
Second.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. All
That's
opposed?
over 3 years too.
Yeah. Okay, the motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you,
Number
Bill.
15, discussion and direction on impacts to a Ross Valley Sanitary District from Central Marin Sanitary Agency, treatment cost allocation policy and procedures. Steve, you worked very hard on this. This was the result of many board members, myself included, asking you, how are we doing this, putting $120 million in the ground and our costs keep going up? So you did a lot of work, and why don't you discuss that?
Well, thank you, President Kelly and board members. And yeah, I appreciate it. I'd like to bring you back to that time. It was probably around the year 2021 or so. And we noticed that our adjustments in the quarterly bill from April back then were getting adjusted downwards as far as our treatment costs. And we thought, oh, this is a manifestation of our investments, that our flows and strength are coming in lower than predicted based on the last 3 years, and the way the system was set up. And so that was a positive indication that we had a lower percentage. And so, that was for 3 years. And as I discussed in the staff report, the last 4 years, we've been getting adjustments upwards. And yet, as you note in our metrics reports, our flows percentages are coming down. So how does this, how do we explain why our allocation percentage is going up while the flows are going down? So I illustrated this on board packet page 154, where table 1, there's the last row there says trend. And then each of the columns is, Ross Valley, San Rafael, Corte Madera, and San Quentin. And you get and then there's a graph below it there that you get an idea of the relative magnitude of the different contributions. It's not super dramatic, but there is a trend downwards. And one thing that's important to note is that each year of this last 5 years, Ross Valley's percentage of flow has gone down. San Rafael's went up, then down. Corte Madera's has gone up each year, and San Quentin's has gone up each year. And these are data that we have pretty strong confidence in as far as the flow. So then it brings up the question of the strength. That could be the only factor that would tip the scales up. And the strength is weighted about half, and the flow is weighted about half in the formula that CMSA implements. But remember, strength is influenced by flow. Strength is concentration times flow. And so flow should have an overarching dominant variable effect. We should see our costs coming down, if our flows are coming down. So as we dug into that, as I mentioned in the staff report, back in February, we asked about the sampling procedures and quality assurance to make sure apples and apples are being collected at the different locations to have indicators of strength. And, we basically, it was unfortunate that we discovered that there's a really unrepresentative sampling regime going on for many years until June 2023, where samples were taken at the bottom of the interceptors. And so that skewed the percentages very strongly toward Ross Valley because our loads are determined by subtraction. The Sanitary District 2 and San Quentin loads are subtracted from Ross Valley. That isn't really front and center, in terms of the billing we receive. We just get the numbers. You had to dig into the policy to see that the policy was to do the subtraction. And so that wasn't real obvious unless you started asking questions and digging in. So these sampling errors continue to influence the bill that came in the door. We were billed, and it's an attachment to the item on July 8th. And because we're billed on the last 36 months of flow and strength, the data of these faulty sampling locations, which inflate the strength of Ross Valley's wastewater, are included in the calculation of the bill that we have in our inbox right now. So we appreciate that, this issue was, discussed with us in March of this year when we asked about it, but it happened in June of 23 and it wasn't communicated to us. So we weren't really, brought along as far as the improvements of sampling. And yet it still influences the amount of the charges that we're receiving to pay for treatment. So that's of concern. And then we also
Can I make a point about the chart?
Oh, sure.
In Sanford, it says up then down, but the 24, 25 is still higher than 2021.
Oh yeah, but barely, right? It's actually basically the same. It's 37.98 and 38.01. That's really close. Yeah. So it's just the relative percentage. Remember, we talk about it's a zero sum game. We all split it. But there are some observations along the way, that we want to share. I'll just briefly do this, and then we can talk about, the items the board can provide some guidance on. Just to finish, there's three major findings. I already discussed the one that the sampling was error prone until June 2023. Statistical outliers, which there are many. If you look at that 2022 data set, there's values, and I brought the textbook. This is sort of the Bible of wastewater engineering, Metcalf and Eddy, 1972. And in this textbook, the strength of sewage is discussed, and it hasn't changed much since 72. Trust me, solids and organic matter are the same. And this is a graph of the diurnal, raw sewage values for designing treatment plants. And the maximum value of suspended solids, it goes up and down during a typical day, but it doesn't go above 300 milligram per liter typically for design purposes. There was a period of time between April and December of 2022 when the Ross Valley suspended solids data never went below 300, which is the maximum in the Metcalf and Eddy book. And it means to us that nobody was really looking and checking, because it's actually as high as 1,000 or 1,300 over 36 consecutive samples. And those values are more like secondary sludge. They're very concentrated findings. Not quite primary. I think primary is more like 3,000. Right, Phil? Yeah. So that was Phil's observation when we were looking at these data. Is they're nowhere near representative of what the strength of the Ross Valley wastewater was going into the CMSA treatment plant over that 9-month period. And that figured into the erroneous data calculation. So those are outliers, let's just say. If they're representative of secondary sludge, they're not representative of influent. And that should have been screened, because there's an SOP that CMSA shared with us that stated that on a monthly and annual basis, the data would be screened by staff to confirm alignment with historic trends. I asked about statistical methods and to make that determination. They replied that, we're amending the SOP to include the statistical test they called the interquartile range test, which would screen out data that's 3 times the median. Well, that's not actually the test, and that's a detail, but that would allow all the faulty data that we've identified to be acceptable to have that screen that they actually adopted. So I want to point out that CMSA staff adopted a change and added a statistical method during our inquiry that would accept all of the faulty data. And so that happened during this process. And then finally, we did get raw loading calculation data in mid-June, and we ran a test because what we learned was the loads were being determined by averaging of averages. There were snapshot daily values that were averaged for monthly average values, which were then averaged for annual daily load value that was multiplied by 365, or that is the procedure. So we learned about how they calculate. And we appreciated, learning the details. They're not described in the SOP. They're not described in any written communication to RVSD since this method was developed in 2012 and 2013. So we did a sensitivity analysis where we took that data and calculated a daily value for each individual day and a different flow value. So that we call that the aggregate method. When we compared that method with their averaging method, we revealed that it was a bias against Ross Valley in terms of the resulting percentages. It just worked out that way by looking at last year's data. And then I did the previous 9 months of data after they changed the sampling location. And I got the same result, that it's about a $500,000 overcharge each of these years because of the way they average the data. That's just this current finding. I think we really benefit from other people looking at these data, maybe doing it with a third party review. But those are the three issues that led to this bias of a higher charge than really was representative of the influence that Ross Valley provides the CMSA from a position of strength. And it was the sampling location for over 10 years. It was no statistical methods were used to determine what were outliers or screening of data, what was representative. And then third was the way they calculate loads. Their averaging method penalizes Ross Valley in terms of what might otherwise be representative. So going forward, we want to just make some recommendations for changes. And I wanted to bring this to the board. So you have a chance to review what we would recommend at the staff level and get any feedback, and certainly appreciate your support for bringing this forward, and any follow-up meetings that we can have at a staff level to try to resolve issues and come to agreement on recommended changes to policy and procedure. And then there are items for the board's consideration as far as, how to move forward with the issue of being overcharged and, for past overcharging, but also, as I mentioned earlier, we've got a bill due to CMSA now that continues to be based on faulty data. And, what does the board feel about paying the bill as charged, or requesting modifications there too? So I think that's it for my overview. I'd like to maybe ask Phil if he's got any insight, in terms of representativeness of sampling and in terms of, this effort to review, how CMSA has been doing things here for about 13 years.
Yeah, I thanks, Steve. I agree completely that more transparency with their sampling methods, that everything should be outlined clearly in a sampling plan. And on our request, the data that we got, or the information that we got, just even regarding their methods was limited. From what we could tell, the number of samples that are taken to make these calculations for our, these things that affect our ratepayers, it was lacking in the quantity of samples taken, everything from that all the way through the analysis. The information provided on there needs, the information that they are gathering needs to be thoroughly explained and the statistical methods that they're applying or that they even their proposed changes don't completely aligned with their sample size even. It's kind of across the board. We have questions regarding how their approach to these kinds of charges. I was a little bit shocked that there was not more information provided to us upon our request, at least. And it is not consistent with what I would expect for these types of calculations.
And I appreciate that, Phil. Phil also brought some specific examples, from his experience managing the treatment plant or, participating in that at Petaluma. So he provides some insight in terms of the quality levels and how representative they would be, or how far out of bounds some of the data were.
Yeah, as you had mentioned, those types of outlier data points that were rolled into our aggregate value there, statistical methods aside, that should have been identified by a human eye as erroneous, and it should have been caught by the numerical quantitative methods that they're using. But even still, the sludge, secondary sludge, that falls in the range. One of those samples at 1,300 milligrams per liter. It's a thickened. The sewage is in a thickened state, and most likely from settling to the bottom of the pipe, how they were previously sampling from the sample port was on the bottom section of the pipe. These are all. It could have been during. If it doesn't take very long at all for that to settle out, if there's a period of slower flow coming into the treatment plant, you're going to immediately settle out some of those solids. A lot of the solids in raw wastewater are readily settlable, and so that methodology was completely, I would just say, irresponsible to put the sampling point right there. And they, as Steve described, moving it, but moving that sample port, correcting the issue, but then not back correcting the charges to us that we're still paying for today in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Thanks, Phil. Yeah, so a lot of our recommended changes on board packet 168, 169 speak to just making these changes in policies and procedures going forward to be more transparent, but also not only in determination of strength indicators, but in reporting and reporting the San Quentin data alongside the JPA member data to add up to 100%. To ensure transparency and fairness. We appreciate that the calculation of the San Quentin portion is done in the spirit of being consistent with JPA members, but we discovered enough anomalies in the details through this process to really justify getting everything together on one page so that it can be tracked and reconciled with contract amounts in a transparent manner. So that was something that board member Gaffney has brought to my attention in the past, as his discomfort with reporting, the JPA members as a 100% of the load and the flow, when there was this other portion from San Quentin, which, as you see in the graph, is not insignificant. It's half the size of Corte Madeira's flow and strength. So there's several recommendations here that we would like to bring forward, have the board be aware and support staff's efforts to engage, with our JPA partners to improve the system. Because despite we have more confidence in flow, one of the options is to just do treatment based on flow only, and it would take away all of these potential sources of error. But as we discussed at Finance Committee, it really is in Ross Valley's interest to have a flow strength method because our flows do go up more than the JPA members due to natural factors, rainfall average, as we've discussed. And when that higher flow goes up, the solids and organic matter do come down because it's mostly rainwater, right? And so by having a flow strength allocation, that's more representative of what the treatment cost really is than if it were flow only. So, we've been thinking and talking about these things. We would like to pursue a robust strength, determination methodology. And these recommendations are the start of that discussion.
Go ahead, Tom.
I just thought of something. I wonder, does CMSA do a really good job of measuring their influent strength and effluent strength in their reports to the state? And I think what we ought to add to your recommendations here is that they reconcile their amount billed with their amount reported to the state. The flows and loadings. And they should have, that's what we were talking about, a mass balance. That is not a difficult calculation. And they would have seen, unless what they're reporting to the state is erroneous, they should have caught that. If you're billing for.
Well, I think in 2023, they did catch it. Some things.
Well,
they didn't talk to us about it.
Maybe they did. Yeah. But I wonder, prior to that, were they reporting huge amounts of removal? I wonder, anyway, that's another thing.
Right. If they're measuring our sludge at the bottom of the pipe, it took me a second to catch up. Then are they treating that sludge? Probably they're not treating sludge because that's just the bottom of the pipe.
No, it'll come out when there's a heavy flow.
It comes out.
Oh, okay.
But they can't allocate they're not treating what they measured right off the bat. So, but I think that's another recommendation is reconcile what they bill us with what they think they are actually treating. Because if you miss that, it's perjury, isn't it? If you know, I don't think they'd knowingly miss it, but I'm just wondering.
I hear you, Director Gaffney. And it's a good recommendation in terms of a cross check, in terms because the two interceptor loading values should equal what is represented as influent loading at the headworks. Yeah. And that is something that is reported to the state because they have to meet 85% removal at the end of pipe. It's an NPDES permit limit. So that's a reasonable request that I'll bring forward.
So our question is then, how do we respond to this? And I guess Michael is going to help us. And I really think we need these recommendations, your changes to these policies. One, we only want to pay what we owe. And two, we want them to change their procedures and provide transparency. And remember, Felicia, at the Central Marin at the Sanitary District number 2 meeting, the Corte Madera meeting, Jason was there, and they asked him, had he implemented all of the recommendations in the RGS report? Is that who they are?
Close, RSG.
RSG. I've never gotten that name right. Report. And he says, well, we've implemented 4 of the 6. They haven't, and he admitted they haven't implemented transparency and they haven't implemented governance. And I don't even know if he's implemented the other 4, by the way.
Okay.
That's related to the ad hoc committee. Is that?
No, Eli made a presentation to the Corte Madera board, and Jason was there. And they asked him, had he, I don't know how it came up, but what he said was, we got 6 recommendations out of this report, and we've implemented 4 of them.
Related to the consolidation, the effective
Yeah,
consolidation.
that's
Okay.
the whole
Right, right.
presentation was about San
Right,
Rafael.
right. Okay, got it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I would just say that this is, thank you for doing all this work. It's great information. I'm glad we have the capacity, staff-wise and intellect-wise, to do this kind of analysis, because I obviously never would have occurred to me that there was a textbook that said things about flow, but that's because that's not my field of study. And we should bring all of this to the attention of CMSA staff and board members.
Yeah.
And
And
ask for prospective change at a minimum, for equity's sake. And then I have to imagine that sort of proportionality in terms of what ratepayers pay, I guess between districts, which I don't know if that's a legal thing, but amongst the JPA members is at least required by equity, if not by the law. So,
And pay the bill under protest.
yes,
that's what I would suggest. I would say, let's not get into a further negative stance, with relationship to our JPA partners and the administration of CMSA, but make them aware of all this, which no doubt they will be by reviewing our board packet and even potentially watching a recording of this meeting. But I appreciate the work, and it's fascinating. We're raising the bar, I think. But I'm also happy to hear that Petaluma's bar is pretty high already. I had no idea you worked in Petaluma, Phil Benedetti. And that I also heard Patrick Filippelli's getting a graduate degree in this stuff. And so he's looked at the statistics as well. So yeah, we bring a lot of brain power to this question. And I'm proud and grateful for that.
Michael.
No, just what everybody said, let's pay the bill
Okay.
under protest. And
Okay, but then
see what our other members and Jason says about this.
then we were told that, we should get our notice in that does that start the time period for us if we say we're paying under protest?
We should talk about that in a different session.
I know.
Okay.
I didn't mention any details.
Okay.
I have
So-
a couple of questions.
Go ahead. Yep.
Isn't there standards in place and policies and procedures in place for testing? Even back to 212? It seems like it's loose and it's like, we'll just do any old thing.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's really consistent with the questions we had when we reached out in February, because the bills come and they just have a summary table with percentages, but no backup, no data. And so we wanted to learn more about that. And they did provide us a written procedure, and it had, it's the right structure and that sort of thing, but there were unanswered questions. We went through a process of asking questions, getting answers, some commitment to look at improving the procedure, but yeah, this isn't governed by the same requirements as effluent and influent monitoring by the state. This is established by the JPA, on behalf of its members. And that's where, going back in time, it doesn't appear to be written evidence of much back and forth or opportunity for comment and review, peer review. I was unable to find any written evidence of peer review. And so that's on the JPA members to have their JPA, have a set of procedures that are robust and transparent and meet certain standards that, such as state standards for reporting. And laboratory standards that are referenced in the SOP are robust at CMSA. They are based on, the accuracy and precision requirements and quality assurance requirements. So when the sample gets in the lab, it's handled according to state oversight. The quality control issues we identified were, and continue to still have questions about, by the way, they're not all answered as of 2023. We want diagrams that show the physical location of sampling equipment and opportunity to modify those as part of making this sampling procedure robust and to meet that level of state requirement. We should ask for that as JPA members, I believe, and I hope I have the board's support in that.
Thank you. And I feel very appreciative too to all your research. I'm very impressed.
Tom, pardon me, Tom, I'm curious. I know you were part of putting this JPA together.
Yeah.
Do you think the original JPA document should have laid out how the bills, whatever, the fees would be allocated amongst the members in a more clear way that maybe?
It did. It
Oh,
said that the
okay.
bills would be allocated based on the number of equivalent dwelling
That's right.
units in each agency. And that was appropriate because their rate ordinances were virtually identical.
Okay.
And all of the definitions for an equivalent dwelling unit were identical.
But it's gotten more complicated since then.
No, they switched in 2012 from the EDU method, as you can see in this. They went to start measuring flow and strength.
I see.
So they
Okay.
changed the method. And I'd like to talk to you about.
Yeah.
something
No,
else.
that's, thank you. That's really helpful because that's the sort of thing you think like, well, when should this have been thought about? And that 2012 period was exactly the era when things were a little haywire.
But it could have, flow and strength is a great way, as Steve has told us, to measure use.
It depends on where you get your samples from
Yeah.
and when.
The samples, right. And to me, sampling 1A is the first thing that a laboratory person
Mhm.
learns, how
Okay.
to take a good sample. And that's where they muffed up.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Any other comments? Because I missed doing this, is there any public that wanted to comment on this? Okay.
So
All right.
is this going to be available by the next CMSA meeting, which is, I guess, 3 weeks from now or something like
Tuesday.
next Tuesday? It probably won't be ready by Tuesday, will it?
Well, this item number is certainly ready.
Well,
What we're up to,
You can ask for, are you?
You're certainly going to ask for an agenda item.
You can
aren't
ask
you?
for an agenda item.
yeah,
Yeah.
we are. So
Okay.
we'll have to ask for an agenda item.
well, then I better ask for it tomorrow.
Okay. Well, do we have enough information to make a presentation at the next CMSA meeting? Okay. I think we ought to do it.
Who's the current president?
Eli still?
No.
No, it'll be Dean.
Dean?
Okay. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
Eli didn't ever want to put something on the agenda. He wanted the meetings to be run as
I don't know. if-
quickly as
or
possible.
we-
And so he always talked me down between he and Jason, they pass back and forth. So just know if you ask Jason, he's going to send you to the president. Probably.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. So have we given you enough direction? Michael Colantino will work with the other organizations as well. So as will you? Okay.
Yes, if you go to our recommendation, we're interested in you accepting this memo and an analysis and then providing the direction on next steps. I've heard that, in terms of, we do want to bring this to the staff level. And so,
So
the next
is-
possible manager meeting, to
Okay.
have a discussion about, and some feedback on our recommendations to get things rolling. But I also heard this idea of our legal representatives connecting with other legal representatives,
Mhm.
to deal with the issue of any claims.
Page 152.
What page?
And then also with this outstanding invoice that's in our inbox right now, to issue correspondence that we were paying the bill under protest.
I'd like to make a motion.
Tom, will you make a motion?
I move that we accept the technical memo.
Hold on, Tom.
I move that we accept the technical memo and direct staff to figure out the next steps on the issues raised by analysis and to pay the next bill to Central Marin under protest. And advise.
Oh, I was getting ready to second.
Pardon?
I was getting ready to second.
Oh, okay. That's it.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And Steve, I want to just commend you. You and I have discussed this over a number of years, or not even that long, but we're doing all this work. It's doesn't make sense. It just never made sense. So thank you very much. Okay, number 16, monthly operations and metrics report, and that would be Paul.
Good evening, President Kelly, distinguished board, council, and staff. Thank you for your time this evening. I know you've had a lot of interesting items this evening, but hopefully I can top it off a little bit here for you. And as far as operations, staff attended electrical safety training and troubleshooting with a new instructor, Richard DeBusk from Do All Safety. Our last trainer had retired, so we were looking around and found this through our trainer through David Patzer, CSRMA, and a recommended trainer. They do classroom training, voltmeters, how to test fuses, and then also do some stuff in the field to make sure staff are safe and feel comfortable using the equipment. The pump crew performed asset information updates for the newly refurbished pump stations 31 and 32, which is really all tying back into the new Esri's work order system that we're working on. We're going through getting make, model, serial number, horsepower, voltage, all the small intricacies for all the little pieces of equipment. So if we ever have to reorder it again, we don't have to pull a pump out to figure out what number it is, what model it is, all that good stuff. We should have it all in the database, easy to grab, and it'll help lead into our spare parts inventory as well. So Pump Station did that. And they also changed a good amount of warning signs along the Bon Air bike path. We had some old force main signs with some bad information worn out. So we've been going along and trying to replace that as we go down the path and any other areas we can find them for, contractor visibility and public staff. If anything ever were to happen, at least they can get a hold of us quickly. The repair crew repaired 8 manholes and did 21 point repairs last month. This coming month, they've been doing a lot of excavations, trying to get rid of blind T's and a lot of intersections in our system that we have a hard time cleaning. So that's our next effort this coming month. So the repair crew's really been going gangbusters this summer and doing a really good job out there. Line maintenance crew's also been busy. They worked over at the Branson School in the town of Ross. They always ask for us to wait till school's out to get into their system. It's a very wide stretching system, a lot of open space out there. So the line maintenance and CCTV staff collaborated to perform all this work together. So after they cleaned it, CCTV was following them right down the line to make sure we could get in and out, not disrupt the school, and get in and out of there. We found one line that had a lot of heavy grit. They removed all that grit, and we changed it from a 3-year to a 2-year schedule just to make sure to mitigate any further instances of that or any upcoming spills that could have happened from that extended cleaning period. Condition assessment staff performed community outreach in the Heather Garden community in Larkspur near Pump Station 30 in Redwood High School. That's Diane Lane and that whole area in there. Wet weather, it's kind of a surcharge system for us. We seem to get a lot of either tidal influence or sump pump flows. So we went around to 138 residents, knocked on doors, talked to homeowners. Like it says here, we even had some of the homeowners show us where their sump pumps went out to the curb and gutter. So we had a really good interaction out there. It was really good. And one of our new seniors actually performed that outreach. Peter Sargoza did a really good job. John really commended him. John Vogel really commended him on the great work he did out there. He's very personable and doing a great job. So it was really nice to see him assimilating into the district. And then in the month of June, we did have one spill. I think we mentioned it last month. It was a category 4, 23 gallons, pretty minor spill, but it got us for the year, up to 9 spills. So we're up 1 from last year. But I think overall, pretty good year. I think we're going to really work this year to make sure we don't have some of those self-caused spills. Like this ARV was a maintenance issue. So we're looking at all those timelines and those schedules to make sure that we're meeting the needs of all the equipment in the district. So we went from a 3-month to a 2-month on that, just to make sure we're on top of them out there. And yeah. Any questions?
I don't remember. Do you remember the category 1 spills, 114,309? How wasn't that almost the most of it was the one in Green Bay, right?
It was, yeah, all of it pretty much. It was at 89,000 and some change, I believe. Yeah. So for the number, the spill volumes were really down this year, and hopefully keep it that way.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
Questions?
Yeah,
A lot of capital work got done right outside my house. It's really loud. They're really good, but it's really loud.
yeah. Are they done?
Yeah, I think we need paving, but other than that, they're done in my little strip.
Yeah.
I can hear them around the bend over
Barons.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, not for long. I think on Monday we're going to Michael's old neighborhood. We'll be at Cypress on Monday.
And actually, I introduced Luis to my stepfather. He came by on Friday, and so they got to meet. I said, "This is 10 Cypress. So you're going over to Cypress next, right?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, the Oak Grove Cypress." I'm like, on this guy's door. So yeah.
Well, yeah, and as far as the spills go, category 4, it doesn't even reach water. It's less than
Right.
50 gallons, and so out of the 9 spills last year, 4 of them were these little puddles, that really don't affect anything other than they're just we don't want to have them because they're not good operational indicators. So really there's more like 5 spills,
Well, see, that just gets to the point of the bills at CMSA. The spills are way down. The bills are way up. How does that work? Okay.
We'll
Pam,
work on that.
any questions?
No.
Okay. Michael? Nope. Tom?
So our schools are 9, 8, 9.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna
Phil, have you met, Paul, have you met with the new Public Works Director at Fairfax?
I have not, but I'll reach out.
But
Yeah.
Phil has.
Oh, Phil has?
Yeah, and we've already had really good interaction. We learned from them that their storm drain Park Road paving project isn't going to be done until the end of 26. We thought it was the end of 25, so we were hustling to try to get some work done before that. But we learned from her last week that it's more like 26. So it gives us a little more elbow room to coordinate our Fairfax capacity project. Oh, Phil's still on here. I don't know if you have any comments about Kristen Arnold. You met with her, right?
Yeah, we met over Zoom and discussed that the park project. It's not for sure, but it's pretty much for sure that it's going to be the following year. There's a lot of moving parts to that project. We're not the only utility that needs to replace our infrastructure on that street so that they can pave, and they're doing new concrete work as well as part of that storm drain project. So that funding deadline actually is December of 2026. So I think it'll work. We aren't up to the same wire as we thought, but there still may be a lot of advantages for us taking care of it this fall as well. But we met and discussed that, as well as the other upcoming work that's part of the 24-25 Gravity Sewer Improvements Project, which is directly adjacent to Town Hall. So we talked about that a little bit, and I shared some lateral card information with Kristen about the town hall and the town of Fairfax facilities out there.
Oh, they need to change the lateral?
Well, actually, the town hall, they replaced their lateral that goes directly to that one building. She was asking about the pavilion.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm not exactly sure where that building sits in terms of our maps that we have that go back to 1940s, but we just briefly discussed that. I'm not sure what all they're looking to do with that, but I would suspect that maybe they're either moving something or they are having some sewer issues that they want to address.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's a good idea for us management here at Ross Valley to be in touch with all of the planning departments. And I know that in particular, Sean Condry does a great job of that there. So I think it's good you did that, Phil.
Yeah, yeah, no,
I have a
important. Public
question
Works.
about Park, because they're ripping it up now, the water company in Fairfax. So is that something that we're going to go back, or you're going to go back and rip it back up on Park? Are you further down the street on Park?
So MMWD is doing the whole street of Park, I believe.
Yeah.
Our project is only from about Spruce to Merwin. And yes, we're going to tear it back up again, but mind you that no one's doing any final pavement restoration until the town's project, which is going to be a storm drain and then some sidewalk, curb and gutter, drain inlets, that kind of thing. Theirs is really going to be the final piece there. But we're all tearing into it. MMWD, I believe PG&E is also in the mix, which will likely complicate the project immensely for the town. But we're also going to be replacing increasing the capacity of that 15-inch line that's on Park and putting in that relief sewer down Merwin.
Parents are going to want that park for their little kitties. I don't think they can use it now because it's all ripped up. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks, Paul. The next meeting, if I remind myself correctly, the next meeting is August 20th, 2025 at 5 p.m. here in this room, and the meeting is therefore adjourned. Thank you.